You just made a blood libel against the Jewish state. The answer.
This is Rabbi Shmuley, and honestly, he's one of the worst people I've ever seen on the internet. To be real, I think he has some serious mental problems, because the way he talks is not normal. And in this debate with Candace Owens on Piers Morgan's show, you're going to see exactly how evil this man is.
Actually, one of the things that plausibly unites people across all religions, Muslims, Jews, Christians, is that we all recognize that Rabbi Shmuley is unhinged. He's just mentally, in my view, unwell. And I don't say that as an attack. I say that as just a reality, because I've never seen someone just make things up out of thin air that were never said. There are radical fringe sects that break out within every single religion, amongst every race. I think right now it's important for people to understand that radical Judaism is also a thing. And you're watching an example of it right now on your screen. It becomes important to understand, what did Rabbi Schneerson preach? Well, he preached Jewish supremacism, the hatred of all non-Jews. You have Rabbi Shmuley who believes that that's his mentor. They believed that he was the Messiah. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are Jewish radicals, and it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to call them out. I do not support supremacism, whether it's coming from my community or whether or not it is coming from yours. And I think the entire world is now paying attention and wondering, what is going on in Israel? What is this government? Is this a radical fringe government? And many people are concluding that the answer to that question is yes.
Candace Owens talks calmly for more than a minute, laying out her points clearly without raising her voice. And then you hear Rabbi Shmuley's response.
Candace Owens has actually now said that the Nazis were the good guys and it was the allies, the British, people like yourself, Piers, who engaged in the ethnic cleansing of 12 million.
You see how these people always spin it? They make it sound like Israel is fighting some kind of holy war, like it's noble and righteous, when in reality they're bombing civilians, women, and children. They hide behind big words and religion to cover up plain war crimes. Even Piers Morgan had to call him out on his nonsense.
Here's what I'm going to say to you, Rabbi Shmuley. If you're just going to continue, every time I ask you a question about the war, which is the point of a debate, to just launch into Candace or her family or whatever, that's your decision. But in the interest of fairness, every time you speak for 3-4 minutes, well, hang on.
You see how they always attack you while also playing the victim? He goes after Candace, even drags her family into it, but Piers finally has enough and shuts him down. Meanwhile, Candace doesn't even look bothered. She just keeps laying down the facts with evidence. If only the rabbi was actually there to listen.
I'm now going to let Candace respond, if you want to, Candace.
Post-October 7th, the world, and especially, I would say, Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. And when we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima. This doesn't make sense to me. Gaza is 30 miles long, 7 miles wide. It's incredibly dense population. And this is, by the way, according to Haaretz, that 40,000 Palestinians have been murdered. I believe they're getting those numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. The fact that you would try to say, I am Jewish, and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil, and what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical.
The way Candace talks with a calm voice just shows there's no need to get emotional, even when he stoops so low to attack her family. And honestly, that only shows what a lowlife this man is, calling himself a rabbi while attacking a woman, a mother, just for telling the truth. And even when he's called out, he doesn't apologize or answer properly. He just plays the victim, like always.
This is a 2-against-1 debate. I expected that.
It's not a 2-against-1 debate.
And I will, excuse me, no, it's a 2-against-1 debate.
You've made no attempt to answer my question.
No. Now let's look at Israel's justified defense. The United States and Afghanistan had a 4-to-1 ratio of civilians murdered for every one combatant. In the Korean War, it was 5-to-1. In Iraq, it was at least 2-to-1. Israel has the lowest per capita ratio of combatants to civilians.
This moron actually compared what Israel is doing in Gaza to America's wars in Korea and Afghanistan. But that doesn't even make sense. First, those wars were against actual armies, not a trapped civilian population locked inside a tiny strip of land with nowhere to go. Second, even if the numbers were the same, does that suddenly make it right? Saying, others killed more civilians, so we're good, is the dumbest excuse ever. You don't justify killing children by pointing at someone else's crimes.
But you should hang on. You should also acknowledge then that there is a unique demographic in Gaza where of the 2 million people who live there, half of them are under 18. So that's a very different demographic to any of the other scenarios you're talking about. That is what's caused so much international opprobrium against Israel, is the fact that so many children, pro rata in the civilian death count, have been killed. It's that people are so exercised about, and rightly. The problem with going after Hamas in the way that Israel has been doing is that the collateral damage, as they would put it, to so many thousands of children has now tested the patience of the world to a degree that vast quantities of the world are against it and want this to stop.
Candace Owens never spoke out once against Bashar al-Assad, who killed 600,000 Arabs. Hamas want Palestinian children to die because the more they die, the more you will condemn me and Israel. Winston Churchill was told by the Americans, don't bomb German cities, Hamburg, Dresden, etc. at night. You can't see what you're bombing. Do what we Americans have, which is precision daytime bombing. And Churchill said no.
All right.
And he flattened German cities. And he is considered today the greatest British statesman of the 20th century.
By the way, the flattening of cities like Dresden was widely condemned at the time, including by many people in Britain, and led to the establishment of the Geneva Convention.
Dresden was the last month of the war, but before that, Hamburg and everything else was not condemned.
It led to the establishment of the Geneva Convention after World War II, specifically to stop that kind of thing happening again. So I'm glad you raised that example.
Do you condemn Winston Churchill as a war criminal for Dresden?
No, absolutely not.
Why not? He bombed Dresden and killed 25,000 people.
Yeah, he also saved the world from Adolf Hitler and the Nazis.
Oh, he saved the world. So Israel's saving the Middle East from Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Iran.
But it's not, though.
Now he is bringing up Churchill flattening Dresden in World War II, saying Churchill is seen as a hero today, so Israel should be too. What kind of nonsense is that? That was a war between two nations, both with armies, both with resources, fighting across continents. Israel isn't fighting another superpower here. It's occupying Palestinian territory, blockading people who can't even leave, and bombing civilians who have no military to protect them. Comparing that to World War II is beyond stupid. It's not the same, not even close.
Hezbollah.
Israel's not doing that.
Thank you.
I was going to say exactly what you said, Piers. Like, Dresden was considered a Holocaust. It was, in fact, a war crime. And the fact that you are having to reference a war crime to justify what's happening in Gaza is not a point for you. It's completely awful. When people say, oh, well, look at what we did. Look at all these other horrific things we did. Why do you care about this horrible thing that's happening? I don't even understand that logic. It's completely ridiculous. Look, there is no person in good conscience who should be comfortable with the amount of death that's happening in Gaza. And yes, if you are going to correlate it to Dresden, that would be a fair comparison, except much more has been dropped on Gaza than was dropped in Dresden. So is it fair to call what's happening in Gaza a Holocaust? Is that what we're looking after when you have this nonstop onslaught? And it's completely ridiculous to say, oh, well, this is happening because of Hamas. Let's be very clear. It is happening because the Israeli government will not stop bombing them.
If you want to hear more breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel.